You're listening to the Slow Ride Podcast. Bikes, advice, and rumors straight from the source. TheSlowRidePodcast.com and on Twitter at TheSlowRidePod. Enjoy the ride.
Hello and welcome to the Slow Ride Podcast. My name is Tim Hayes, coming at you from Gainesville, Florida, where, yeah, I sound really extra special good. And that's because I have a new microphone. I'd like to thank that for all our listeners that have been donating money to us to keeping this show afloat, and all of our high-powered advertisers.
Mm-hmm. Well, Hogan's Biscuit says you're welcome. As a little guy in Minneapolis, I'm using the same 1960s 3M microphone that I bought at the thrift store 10 years ago, and I still sound better than Tim.
And this is your third host, Spencer Howe in Boston. I pretty much sound regular. I don't know. Things are fine.
Regular.
You're definitely the third host, so thanks for that.
Yeah.
So, guys, a lot of things going on in the cycling world, but first, thank you for doing a nice episode last week with Adam Meyerson as a special guest. I liked how good flow.
It's pretty cool.
Try to flow.
I appreciate you telling my story as I'm walking down the streets of Edinburgh, Scotland. I'm probably pronouncing the city's name wrong, but anyways, as I'm walking down the street,
we'll check in with Murray.
I'll see a fat bike rolling down the street and a guy in a kilt, and I tried running after him to get to take a picture, but I crossed a street and then the cars were coming the wrong way, and I was like, oh my god, and I almost died. So that was a little awkward.
Been worth it.
I will say that that look right thing and then look left, it's definitely a little tricky.
Was it a sport kilt?
No,
like,
it was
specifically designed for
utility
sport?
kilt. Yeah.
It was like a legit tweed. Looked a little itchy.
What did the Scottish think of utility kilts? Do you think they're down with it, or do you think they're like this stupid American like techno-punk thing?
Oh, that's a good question.
Well, let's talk about bikes.
All right, let's talk about bikes. Big news really today, and I just want to get this off my chest. Props to Carmen Small and Elbows Racing for signing up for the Nature Valley the Minnesota North Star Bicycle Festival presented by Preferred One and various other medical corporations. Women entrant into the race, and if I hear one jackass say, "Oh, you got girled" by Carmen Small, I'm going to be really, really angry. Because I think it's pretty awesome, and we should give full respect. So, you guys have heard this news, correct?
Oh, yeah.
From you.
So, Carmen Small is a legit one of the best female racers in the country. 2013 time trial champion, I believe. National champion. So, my question to you guys, where do you think she would finish up on some of those stages on the crits and time trials versus the men? Do you think that she's going to be kind of mid-pack? Would that be a successful race for her? Finishing the race, would that be successful?
The time trial is probably the easiest one to predict because they do the same course. And she's won that time trial before. And, you can look at her time and compare it to the men's. And it's definitely a respectable time. So I think she's gonna have no trouble there. And, in the crits, I think she'll be able to hang in. Road races, though, are definitely longer than the women's road races, so I think that's where, if she's going to have trouble, that's where it's going to come.
Okay. Yeah. I do want to say it's a total coup by Elbows Racing to get Carmen Small because of the amount of publicity this is getting that team. And I think that should not be underestimated, too.
Well, they are kind of the masters of this. Nature Valley itself, like they came a couple years ago with Travis McCabe and a certain Eric Marcotte. That nobody had heard of before, and now those guys are smashing everyone's faces. They animated a lot of stages a few years ago. Carmen Small is hopefully she'll do that. How awesome would it be for her to get off the front on one of these races? Like she's very familiar with this race. She's won it a handful of times.
Yeah.
She's no stranger to the courses, so could be good. Could be interesting.
Could be.
They're going to move a lot of elbows at the end of this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of units.
I don't know that that's what they sell.
No?
No.
Now that was the big news, Carmen Small. So congrats to her for taking this on. It's very exciting. Sadly, this is what happens when the women's race gets canceled for a variety of reasons that we've discussed before. Namely, the reason given being the lack of entrance. Still a lot of controversy on if
impatience.
If impatience is what really went there. So there's definitely some all sides of the story on that one.
Do you guys know there's more amateur crits this year? This dork gets to race in downtown St. Paul on Wednesday night.
Yeah, at the expense of the women. Way to go, little guy.
So, little guy, I would love to see a full race report.
Get dropped. Yeah, I'll get you a full race report. Judging by how my crit performance was last Tuesday on a much easier course, I'm probably going to get dropped. Not going to make the time cut. But I'll be there because you never get to race in downtown St. Paul. You only get to race at the state fairgrounds in Minnesota. I was under the impression that was the only place you were allowed to race bikes in Minnesota, but I guess not.
Well, just have someone take a picture of you riding in front of Mickey's dining car. That would be great.
That would be good.
And then maybe we can autograph it. We can autograph it and auction it off for Spencer's new microphone at the Richmond 2015 World Championships live show.
Oh, wait, we have a silent auction for like a picture of me getting dropped. Autographed.
Please make sure you're wearing that pink jersey.
I didn't have the legs.
So, all right. Before we get to the big news on all of the stage races and kind of talking about the tour, and you guys did a great job following up on the Bradley Wiggins hour record. The one thing I want to point out is that statement that you said, like he lapped the second fastest guy, Dowsett out there. That's probably the. I mean, he probably lapped him 2 times at least.
I think so.
That puts it all in perspective on how fast Bradley Wiggins was going out there. And thanks for bringing that up. But one of my favorite things this past weekend, and I was thinking about this when I was in Scotland, I actually drove past where they were doing the Downhill World Cup on the way to go discover Nessie up in the Loch Ness. And
good luck with that.
Yeah, I wish that I did the World Cup, but maybe next year.
You only had a camera.
I needed sonar. That being said, this past week's World Cup Downhill won by American Aaron Gwin, and there's a really cool video on it from redbull.tv where he wins the race without a chain. He snaps it going down the start ramp, and he puts together a pretty sweet display. Yeah. Now, immediately the announcer goes at the end, he's like, check that bike for a motor. And then I saw he's sponsored by Specialized, so it starts to make me wonder if this motorized thing could actually.
But when he put the bike down at the end of the downhill run, did the wheels keep turning and the cranks keep going, or what?
No. Well, it was remote control.
That's the Cannondale version of the motor.
Turned it off somewhere else. I didn't actually know that downhill bikes had chains.
Did you
Because you walk
just
to
a
the
drive
ski
shaft?
Lift. You just walk to the ski lift and you take that back up to the top.
They're kind of like Strider bikes.
Yeah, I thought they were like adult Strider bikes.
You just put pedals on them just to keep your feet out of the way.
Yeah, that's what I thought. They were like, remember those sweet, like when the BMX scooters, like the little scooters back in the day that had like rotors and pegs on them and stuff were cool in like 1987.
No, I don't.
You guys remember that? All right, I'll find a picture.
Must have been a little bit suburban there.
So
it was a Maple Grove thing.
Yeah.
Anyway,
it was
not like the hard knock life you guys were living.
What's interesting about this is that last year at the World Championships, a similar thing happened where another American, Nico Malali, broke his chain in start gate and finished 4th in the World Championships with no chain. So this isn't completely unprecedented. It's a little weird that Americans keep breaking their chains. Maybe it's time to look into new mechanics. But what it brings to mind for me anyway is maybe there should be some amount of pedaling in downhill racing, like some
Like a
section
little bit
where
of
you just
uphill?
have to give a little crank, or
Well,
you know,
it depends on the course. So the course in Scotland is known for being more of an endurance course because you do have to pedal between certain segments. So, because it's not all straight downhill like last week's course. But then again, I'm not a pro. All I know is the coverage is pretty awesome, and the guys in Red Bull TV, they go totally overboard, and I love it.
Yeah, it was good coverage. It's kind of like it's like watching a cross race. They must have all those little cameras on strings, like Sporza does.
I
you know,
can't tell. I
zipping
can't
along.
decide if it makes me feel like downhill must be like if that guy's extra good at it because he could win without a chain, like he's that awesome, or if it's just like maybe too easy. You know what I mean? Like in a weird sort of way. Like I know
Well-
it's not easy, but
Well, you just recently went down a hill on a mountain bike that didn't fall apart up in Vermont, right?
it's true. I did.
So did you find that difficult? Were you sitting there going like, man, I really wish there was more pedaling?
I did plenty of pedaling. I don't think I'm as fast as any of those guys, and I didn't go down anything quite as gnarly. But there's sections where I could get more speed for sure. I don't know. I
It
don't
does
mountain
seem
bike
weird that
much.
you never
I
have
mountain
to
bike like twice a year.
pedal.
All right, guys, let's get to some actual bike racing that requires pedaling and working chains.
Yep.
Of course, I'm talking about the Dauphine Libre, won by one Christopher Froome
You know, he's got a nickname. It's Froomy.
by 10 seconds over fan of the podcast, Tejay Van Garderen.
Big fan
And-
of the podcast.
Guys, I don't know. Part of me was almost cheering for Tejay Van Garderen on those last two stages.
What? What?
What part of you?
The
Oh,
part of,
don't answer that.
the part of me that wanted him to have a complete meltdown about 300 meters from the finish on Sunday and then blame it on someone else. And he didn't. It's like he rope-a-doped us.
He had a good race.
He had a fantastic
exciting.
race. And
Yeah.
he's no Talansky. He's not the future of American cycling, but he's definitely got it. I do want to say that when he took the yellow jersey for Saturday's stage, Velo News was running all those articles about like with maturity comes race leadership, and he was talking about how he's learned a lot from Sammy Sanchez. And I kind of laughed a little bit. I was sitting there going, "Oh, TJ, you learned most of what you've raced from yourself. No one's ever helped you. What is this new mature TJ Van Garderen? I don't like this."
Maybe Sammy said, "Stop complaining and just race your freaking bike, TJ."
So
Yeah.
Because it seemed to work, and I'd say he did show maturity, and then he didn't try to follow the Froome attacks. He paced himself, and that's the only reason he was there. Because when Froome attacks, it's like something exploded. It's the way he looks.
it's amazing that after
Trying to follow him is a bad idea.
31 hours of racing, he only lost by 10 seconds. That's obviously we need to see a little bit more from TJ where he can get those results and finish it through the line, but it has to be killing him that he couldn't make up those 10 seconds on that final stage. I mean, think about that.
Think about this, though. If he'd made up those 10 seconds, we'd have to talk about how he'd peaked too soon. But now that he only got second, we can say that he's right on track for the Tour.
Well,
Plus, he's only at 90% because everyone at that race is only at 90%.
Well, or 60%. TJ Van Garderen getting second, then Roy Costa getting third, wrapping out the podium for Lampre with those funky helmets. So
Did you guys see the headline on Cycling News the other day when Costa won the stage? That great stage where him and Nibali and Galopin and Martin were in a break all day with Valverde? Okay,
Nope.
You guys didn't see it. Anyway, the best thing about the headline on Cycling News is they said Costa turns back the clock. As if he's 100 years old and like washed up. He's only the world champion 2 years ago, won the Tour of Switzerland in the last 3 years. He's only 28. But I guess Cycling News thinks he's old news and washed up.
well, he doesn't
and he just
speak
sort of
English.
accidentally.
He's not a
finished.
native English speaker, so I
Well,
think
that's
Yeah.
true because then all they did was run really excited articles about how Simon Yates.
I was
who
just
wrote
about to
for
say
Hell,
Simon
you know,
Yates,
like-
fifth place.
Yates finishes fifth. cycling rejoices that another English speaker got high up, so we had someone to talk to.
But not Movie Star comes in fourth. Other big finishes: top American finisher, 7th place Daniel Martin.
That's a second. I don't know if you're aware of.
No, I know. He's not American though. Tejay Van Garderen is a hero of
like
the
Irish
world.
or something?
No,
something more. Yeah,
he's like the world's son. And then Joaquim Rodriguez in 8th, Romain Bardet in 6th, sorry, from AG2R. And then
what sort of top 10 is this?
And then Talansky.
Shoots around with apologies.
Talansky in 10th, and then rounding out the top 10 in 9th place, Alejandro Valverde of Movie Star.
Beautiful.
Oh my god.
So the big question is for the tour, who finished in 16th place there, Sam?
Oh, crap.
16th place was...
Little guy's going to be very happy about this.
I was thinking about that when I saw it
Scarponi?
earlier. No, it's Daniel Navarro of Cofidis.
Ooh, that's a good one. You know, he went in the move one day. I like to see that, you know, I don't understand why he's on Confidis, but whatever. He's Spanish and he's on a French team and he's a GC rider. It makes zero sense.
So, little guy, there's a couple of racers here. There are a couple racers here that if this is the mini Tour de France, if this is like the one that's going to give us, and we'll talk about the big 4 racers and all that. But little guy, Pierre Roland in 25th place, 40 minutes down.
Yeah,
with 38
what's
minutes
happened
on.
to him? It's hard to remember that last year he did a really good Giro. You know, in 2014 he finished 4th, and he's kind of been missing in action since then. Not a lot of results. Used to be the French hope. He's certainly not anymore.
So the next one, little guy, we need to talk about is Scarponi, 27th place for Astana.
Yeah, but he was working for Nibali, and he sat up one day.
Okay.
He sat up to help Nibali in one day. So don't worry, Scarponi is going to be on fire at the tour. He's been hanging out with his kids. He's going to the beach. He's been eating pizza pies.
So let's round out some of the other important things. Nasir Buhani wins the point classification for Cofidis. He's going to be coming in looking pretty good, I think, at the tour. You have Edvald Bosenhagen in 2nd in the points classification. And then let's go to the mountains classification. And I know all the fans around the world want to know how MTM Quebeca did it. And they have the Eurasian superstar, Daniel. And I'm just going to call him Daniel for the rest of the week.
Danny T.
Daniel Tikle Hymanot.
Ooh, not bad.
It could be right.
Yeah, you might have got that right.
Tikle Hymanot. Dominated the mountain classification.
Yeah.
Double the closest competitor, Chris Froome. You may have heard of him. So, anyways, really cool result for MTN Quebeca.
Africa went 1-2 in the mountains competition.
Well, they went 1-3. Froome got 2nd. And then...
I love this podcast. God damn it.
All right, guys. So let's talk about the ones that everyone wants to talk about. Let's talk about
All right.
Chris Froome. Let's talk about Vincenzo Nibali.
Let's talk about Nibali. You know where
Yeah.
he finished on the final stage?
Far down.
Just think about it. Just take a wild shot in the dark. He is calling his shot for the tour. He finished the final stage of the Dauphine in 16th place.
Oh. Well, there you go. He's won. He's already won.
He couldn't pull it off for the GC, but he let us know what he's thinking in the final stage. And I think this bodes ominous for Alberto Contador, as some people call him. Just me. But hey, the tour is going to be big.
So we have
everybody looks like they're in shape.
So we have Froome. Froome is probably Froome is the number one contender. I think most people would say. Then you have Nibali. Then you have Nairo Quintana, who has been living at 9,000 feet altitude. And I should note that Movistar won the team classification at the Dauphine without their star rider, Nairo Quintana. I think
they only had the guy who finished 4th in Valverde.
Yeah.
So yeah,
that's what I'm
really
saying.
Surprised.
And they had Jean Gadret.
They didn't even have Quintana. All they had was 4th and 8th on GC.
Dude, I'm calling it right now. Nairo Quintana is going to win the tour by a couple minutes.
I don't think so, but we'll see. We haven't seen him race in a while. He'll be racing in
That's
the coming
true.
week.
So who else? Who else are
We'll
the
test.
top 4 contenders? Like, so who are we really looking for?
Well,
at the
Bardet
tour?
looked good.
Okay.
Bardet looked really good. Jean-Christophe Renard did not look good yet. I'm a little worried. Oldest Frenchman isn't looking too good, but I think he's going to turn it around. And yeah, like you said, Pierre Roland seems to not be good anymore, and that's too bad.
I thought Tony Galopin had a respectable showing, good enough that he could be knocking on the top 5 coming to tour.
What? Are you insane? He
Yes.
cannot ride for GC.
No.
He can.
Do you
Sorry,
think
Spencer.
Galopin's going to ride for GC?
I think he is.
All right. Well, I hope your Velo Games teams backs that up.
Do you think
But,
Lotto's other option is going to do anything in the GC?
Jurgen's not riding.
Vandenberg?
He's not
There
riding.
you go. Then who is their GC guy?
They have no GC guy.
They have
They're
Galopin.
not riding for. He's not a GC
They're
guy.
not riding for sprints. They can't win those either.
They can. They've got a gorilla.
The Gorilla's not strong this year.
Galopin will be in the tour to try to win a stage, but he's certainly not there riding for GC. I like the guy. I think he's a great rider. He's not riding for GC.
So, guys,
race.
who do you put right now on your podium for the Tour de France? I'm going to say Quintana, Froome, and then I'm going to say some random Frenchman, Bardet.
Bardet. That is a random Frenchman. I'd say maybe Bardet. And I think Nibali, Bardet, and Froome will be on the final podium. But
All right.
How about you, Spencer?
I think Contador on the top step, Nibali on step number 2, and Thibaut Pinot on step number 3.
So is Contador right now sitting at home after winning the Giro in dominating fashion, sitting there looking at what Chris Froome did today or this weekend, worried?
No, he's got his feet up on the mantle. He's sipping a Pinot Noir, thinking about how he's going to dump Pinot on the ground. During those climbs, he's going to pour him out and watch him roll downhill. And it's probably a fine Italian wine. Actually, he's making some evil genius references there.
I'm wondering if Contador is nervous at all, because Froome put together quite the performance, dominating fashion, especially the way that he took out Tejay Van Garderen on those last 2 stages.
All we need to say is cobblestones.
So you think that the cobblestones is where Contador is going to be able to take it to Froome?
Yeah. I mean, we've seen Contador ride pretty well on them before. Not so great, I guess, last year, but a few years ago, he rode really, really well on them.
So what we have this year, how many stages have the cobblestones? Just 3 this year?
No idea.
I'm not totally sure. I'd have to look it up.
All right. Well, I'm excited for that. I'm a little concerned. That's the only stages that I'm concerned about Nairo Quintana not being able to hold on. But I still think Contador has to be watching the Dauphine, sit there looking at what Froome put together and knew that he's going to have a race. He's going to have a race between those two, and then you got Quintana coming in. Nibali looked weak.
He always does that. He did that last
I'm
year.
thinking Contador thinks his only competition is going to be Nibali.
So
Because Astana is so strong.
Contador is not a stupid man. I bet he knows much more than us. I think he's worried about a lot of guys.
Well,
He'll play it well.
I'm sure
He's the
worried
cagiest
about
rider in the peloton. What about Pinot? What about your boy Pinot? He finished second in a sprint today to Peter Sagan, who seems to be riding for GC in Switzerland.
like Spencer said, Contador right now is sitting there sipping on Pinot, and he's just going to throw it out. He's not concerned about Pinot. He can just drop that whenever he wants.
Mm-hmm. You can pop a new bottle anytime.
The bigger question is, what kind of form is Quintana going to come into the tour? Because he hasn't been really doing any big races.
He's gonna come in with some rusty form, Tim. That's what he's gonna come in with.
He's racing next weekend.
It's gonna be like a wobbly Cat 4.
You think so?
I kind of think so.
The other big race going on right now is Tour de Suisse, and Peter Sagan took a win today. But bigger than that, I think the biggest news out of Tour de Suisse, by far one of the coolest stage races, is Domenico Pozzovivo of AG2R took the start line after that horrific crash at the Giro, and I know that the three of us are very excited about that. So it's good to see him back out there racing.
He's holding his own. 14th place overall right now, 29 seconds back.
And if you go through the start list for the Tour de Suisse, team leader for Cannondale Garmin is Tom Danielson. And let's do a quick little guy. Can you do a quick check to see what place Tom Danielson is in after 3 stages?
Holy crap. I'm scrolling down. I haven't found him yet. I don't think he's their team leader. I think you might have made that part up.
He has number 1.
Well, I can't find. Go on with the podcast, and when I find him, I'll let you know. I'm scrolling down on my phone. Just go on with the podcast. Go on with the podcast without me.
So, what else you guys want to talk about?
You guys been holding on to me?
What else you guys want to talk about?
Is there more mountain bike news? We're good at that.
There's no such thing.
Hey, little guy, any stories on the Greenway?
No, but I did go. I did go to the hardware store the other day. I rode the Cruiser, came out, and there's one guy at the bike rack next to me, and he's hurrying up. He starts hurrying up right as he sees me to leave, and I'm like, all right, whatever. And he leaves, and then I look over and I notice that there's a coffee cup in my basket. I think that guy was the coffee cup bandit.
Sad news: when we came back from Minnesota from this wedding, Sarah's bike was stolen while we were gone.
What? Like from the house or from where?
From in front of the house where we had it locked up. So a little bummed out about that. So Sarah is sans bike. So if anyone sees a nice white breezer rolling around Gainesville with a front basket.
How are you leaving bikes locked up outside?
What do you mean? We lock them.
But why don't you just... I mean, I'm not... It's just saying, why didn't you put it in the house?
Because it's heavy. I didn't want to carry it up the stairs.
Sounds like somebody owes Sarah a new bike.
Yeah. Good thing I know a guy.
What kind of lock do you have on that thing?
A nice chain lock that wasn't so nice after they took an angle grinder to it.
Damn.
That's unfortunate.
So
that sucks.
Have you found where Tom Danielson is yet, or are you still scrolling down?
I didn't find him. I told you to go on with the podcast. I never saw Danielson. He's in 54th place. Tommy D. 11:43 down.
So
he's right on track. It's
so
fine.
As you can see, there's not much going on in the world of cycling or in our lives. So because of that, guys, do you have anything else to add, or should we wrap this one up?
Do you want me to tell you about like oil pumps on Vanagons? Because I spent 24 hours of the last week doing that, not riding my bike.
No, that's all right, because I want to go watch the Blackhawks win the Stanley Cup. But you guys,
holy crap! How are they still playing hockey? It is summer.
It is.
Hockey is dumb. Is basketball still going on?
Yes.
Basketball is dumb.
So next week on the podcast, we're going to hear how Little Guy did in the Nature Valley Grand Prix. Maybe he'll score some nice interviews with some of the racers for the podcast. And also,
probably
we'll have more up-to-date Tour de France coverage as we prepare for the biggest race in the world.
Yep. Keep your ears to the ground, people.
Spencer, you got anything? I'm wrapping this one up.
That sounds good. I think we should probably remind everybody that we're doing a live show at the Richmond 2015 World Championships, where we'll have special guest Dan from NAM, asterisk, and potentially a lot of other cool guests. Thanks for letting that cat out of the bag, little guy.
The entire Slovakian national team, asterisk.
So, guys, I'm kind of sad to say that we have secured lodging in Richmond.
What? Good, because I was like, man, we haven't talked about that.
Well, I was scouring Craigslist, and I did find a really nice Econoline van, and I think we're gonna do this.
Price is right.
What year?
It's an '87.
Oh, it's a good year for Econoline.
Yeah. It's an old workman's van, so we're gonna have to put down. Bring your yoga mats.
All right.
And maybe we'll go get an air mattress or two. Shotgun.
Well, I tried to watch the Dauphine this week, and I never got a chance.
I didn't watch any of it.
Seemed good. That stage where those dudes broke away together, obviously neither of you guys know anything about it. The Costa one sounded like the most ridiculously epic stage ever, and I didn't see it.
I'm a little disappointed that there wasn't like a really good story about Tejay Van Garderen losing and putting the blame on everybody else.
He just
the
lost.
weather, or the course, or the
Wasn't any of
promoter.
that shit.
Like,
I
what
know.
is this?
He's losing his edge. I don't think he's ready for the tour.
I
He
don't
is.
know.
Don't
Yeah.
His
worry.
excuses don't.
There's like we said, the cobble stage, man. He's gonna mess
He's
up the
probably
cobble
like
stage.
he didn't even go like my mechanic put white bar tape on the bike and I wanted black and I was just distraught all day. I was just
I
my
looked
mind was
down and I
elsewhere. I
couldn't
couldn't focus.
Yeah,
My watts were down.
maybe that's why he's matured.
And that's pretty much it. I'd like to thank everybody for listening to the show, the podcast. Thanks for tweeting us at the Slow Ride Pod. Thanks for emailing us, theslowridepodcast@gmail.com. If you haven't already, please click subscribe on iTunes. Leave us a note. Leave us a review. If you can, tell your friends about it. We're also on Stitcher. It's really important to us, and it helps build the show. And remember, always wave to that fellow clown. I can't read this, Spencer. Hey, wave at the other spandex clown-wearing nerd across the road from you, all right? And, more importantly, when you're on that ride, don't be that guy.
That guy that Tim's being.
Wait, what do you mean by that?
I don't know.
I think it was good.
All right. Cool.
Thumbs up.
And with that, we'd like to bid you adieu. Thanks for listening.
The Slow Ride Podcast. Bikes, advice, and rumors straight from the source. TheSlowRidePodcast.com and on Twitter at TheSlowRidePod.
Wait, so if we're riding a 3-person bike, you think we can beat TJ Van Garderen in a time trial?
Yeah, as long as there aren't turns.
What if
But there
there's
aren't.
loose, sandy, gravelly turns,
I don't
though?
think there's actually Are there ever turns in time trials? It's just an out and
Guys.
back, 10-mile.
I don't think there's any way we could beat TJ Van Garderen unless it's
There's
dead
3
flat.
of us on a triple. I don't know what you call a triple bike.
So who's steering?
Doesn't matter.
It's the
It's
caboose.
flat. It's a time trial.
These are things we need to discuss. You
I
can't
am
just
closing-
throw this out willy-nilly.
Yeah, little guy.
You
If
could
we're going to beat
challenge
TJ Van
TJ.
Garderen,
We're getting
if
a
we're going to
bike
beat TJ,
built.
How do we do this the same way as we did our national championships qualifying team sprint?
so little guy's the leader.
He's
No,
the lead
I couldn't
off.
be the leader. I was the leader, but you couldn't follow me, so I had to be the second guy.
Was that the closer? Who was this? Yeah, Tim was
You were
the
the
starter.
closer. Tim had to be the starter because I kept dropping him, so I had to
Because
be
he
the
couldn't
second guy.
start.
I started too fast to be the start.
Oh God, we're geniuses.
We were
Okay.
really smart.
So we have this tandem. All I got to say is if I'm not the captain, I have to wear like eye blinders because I don't want to see where we're steering. You guys just tell me to pedal because you've
Yeah.
seen me in a car.
Yeah. You're obviously not the captain. It's between me and Spencer, and we'll figure that out.
All right.
You're obviously one of the stokers.
Okay. So tandem race, we can beat him.
Triple
Do you
tandem.
think TJ
What
Van
is this,
Garderen?
a thricer?
Do you think TJ Van Garderen can beat us up though?
No, he's a climber. He's a GC guy. He's got little arms. Even I could take him. These little things.
All right, you come to our
Shots fired.
Richmond, Virginia live show. Little guy Matt Allen versus TJ Van Garderen wrestling
Arm
or what?
wrestling. Let's have
Arm
an
wrestling?
wrestle.
Let's have an
That's-
arm wrestling
that's
match.
You know, I
Officially
don't like the guy,
challenge
but I don't actually want to
TJ
fight
Van
him.
Garderen to an arm wrestling challenge.
TJ Van Garderen has been
I don't
challenged to an
wrestle
arm
TJ
wrestling
Van Garderen.
challenge
He'll probably beat me.
by
This
the
is
little
a-
guy Matt Allen. Little guy.
You need to work on your WWE Smack Talk, little guy, because you can't
Little
be
guy.
like, oh, he'll probably beat me. No, you
Yeah.
need to be like, that's right. I'm here. I'm in the house. This is my house.
Well, you know, I was
Richmond,
picking
Virginia.
apples all day, and I used mostly my right arm, just like
you
reaching.
go.
So I've been working on my
This
arm
is-
wrestling arm.
This is like the Rocky 3. Like, you're doing it, like, American style, and
American
TJ's going to come in with his weird European, like, whatever, living in Spain, and
I
yeah.
have like a faux hawk and stuff.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
little guy, you got the hair. I mean, you keep growing that out. You're going to be a very intimidating arm wrestling
Oh, yeah.
machine.
Yeah.
I
Till
would
pull out the
recommend
gun.
watching the Sylvester Stallone classic Over the Top so you can learn the different grips and the importance of doing all that.
He might have. I hope Horner makes the national team. I don't know how that's even possible, but man, would that just be amazing.
Well, this course is designed for Horner. It goes
It
by
wouldn't be bad.
It goes by at least 3 or 4 Safeways.
Oh.
Hey, where have you been, little guy?
I looked over and I couldn't figure out why everything was going so slow, and I realized the Wi-Fi router wasn't working, so I was on the neighbor's Wi-Fi. So now I'm on my Wi-Fi, so it should work considerably better since I'm sitting next to it.